Hello, I'm Melonie at the Vancouver Yoga Center in Vancouver, Washington, and I'm here with one of our teachers, Teresa, and she's going to help me demonstrate Ustrasana Camel pose, and we're going to show some tips and tricks in Camel, some ways to make maybe the lower back feel not so compressed, and ways to get into the rest of our spine a little bit more deeply. So for this, you will need a variety of blocks. I have 4 for today's practice, but if you at least have 2, that will be really helpful. So let's start on the blanket in a kneeling position. So the first is she's going to take one of these blocks, flat setting. For her, skinny setting will be fine. For others that have maybe wider hips, you want to take it a little bit wider. So she's going to take that between the heels. And then she's going to, one, make sure that her knees aren't splayed way out, but that we line up the thigh bones right from the pelvis. And the block is going to be for her to press her heels into. And as she presses the heels into, so you got to think of a base. When a base gets pinched in, there's another part that might widen and broaden. So here up into her pelvic region, her pelvic floor and her sit bones, and when she hugs her heels in, she will get more spaciousness, more broadening up at that base. This is going to be super important to allow for the pelvis and the spine to move into that space. So she hugs her feet in to get a wideness of the sit bone. So that could be what you try to feel and try to play with while you do it. Now, if she doesn't have something like this, what might happen is we start going into the pose. And so place your hands on the hips and do a little mock version of camel pose. The knees might tend to want to splay, the pelvis wants to go forward, the feet want to come in, and the sit bones want to come in towards each other. And once the sit bones come in towards the spine, your spine is done. And usually you're just getting it all in this lower back region. So it's really all about starting from the base and working your way back up. So this is one trick to give a little bit more freedom in around the sacrum, to give more space around the sacrum. That's a nice little trick. Another trick that we could play with is this block on the skinny setting. So I'm going to give that to her. And she takes this block as much as she can up on the upper inner thighs. So this is going to be not to squeeze. Remember, we're squeezing the base, not to drop, but it's going to let us know how much we're thrusting the tops of the thighs forward, the pelvis forward, and the tailbone forward. So if she can keep a sense like she's just drawing it back a little, just enough to kind of keep that open quality to the pelvic floor. That will be super helpful. She's still rooting in the heels, and then expanding the thighs more in the back plane. We have these other blocks nearby where she could place her hands on if she can't reach her heels and get that far. So those are pretty standard in most yoga classes where you give a little extra support to reach the floor. So she's going to now start hugging the heel block, taking the tops of the thighs just a little bit back. And at first you might feel like you're getting a little bit of curve in the lower back, but that's okay. This area is going to even out eventually. And let's take the hands to the side of the hips and go side bodies long. Make the rib cage lengthen. Great, now let's think about every vertebrae of the spine. So first you get lift, and now start to get curve. And as you get curve, you're going to open up the belly. You're going to open up the sternum. You're going to open up more of the sternum, right? Get into the upper back where it goes up to go over. And most people will fly their head back. So the next stage is to not fly the head back. I'm going to give her head support to get some length. And then she's going to actually just lower the skull down. But as she lowers the head down, the heart's going to keep puffing up. The moment her heart caves, I don't know if you can demonstrate that, to kind of drop your chest, yes. Then we get straining around the shoulders and the neck, and people are trying to hold their head up, or they just crank their head back. And they're not getting any more curvature to the spine. So heart puffs up. Go ahead, neck is long, but yet the head descends like an elevator, and this is where she gets more and more and more and more curve. And this is a lot. Now the important thing is, yeah, there she is. Now she's going for the deeper version of the stretch. Now the important thing is when we come out of it, we're going to keep the pelvis, right? And then we're going to move the bottom ribs forward, the center of the heart forward, let all that pull forward and let the head be the last to come up rather than just trying to pick ourselves up with our head and to draw forward. So hopefully this will make more of an even curvature. Typically people will just take the rib cage as one chunk and tip it back. And so the bottom ribs tip forward and we start to get this vector point of pressure right at that lower back region or right in the middle of that lower back region. So we don't want to make this a block. We want to make this segments that tip, 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 all the way back, and then all the way back up. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this. Hope it was helpful. You can place comments in the comment area. We'd love to hear them. And visit us at vancouveryogacenter.com. See my online classes, a link to those there. And stay tuned for more YouTube videos. See you soon.